Hello, my friends. This is Israel Ben David, and welcome to the Communication Lab YouTube channel. Today I have Ludmila Frolova, and we will do some perspective on the open dialogue, communication, non-violent communication. Um, Ludmila Frolova is the international certified coach trainer from ICC. ICC is the international coaching community. She's also NLP master trainer, hypnosis trainer, executive coach, and hypnotherapist. She's a certified facilitator and the open dialogue method and instructor um, and the mentor at the School of Open Dialogue in Russia. She lives in Moscow. Sorry, she's originally from Moscow, but lives since 1990s in Denmark. Hello, Ludmila. How are you?
I'm fine. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very interested about this interview. Have very nice feelings about being here. Thank you.
Ludmila, you are one of the most interesting persons in open dialogue school, because when I came to school you were my first instructor and first to tell what is open dialogue is all about. And later on, when we happened to talk a little bit more and maybe to know each other a little bit more, and also participating in open dialogue groups, I discovered a rich and experienced person, and not only in the open dialogue but also in the coaching and NLP practices. So you have actually a very valuable, in my perspective, um, experience in all that we have in the personal, personal growth and transformational practices. As I know, you're also practicing on personal level yoga and all that different kind of things. Most of your life is dedicated and ruled in a format of personal transformational experience. So it's very interesting to me to know what what is your perspective on the open dialogue, and maybe if we will start, when was the first time, if you can remember, the first time that you met open dialogue? Can you share with us?
Yes, yes, I remember it surely. It was rather a difficult time in my life. Although I'm lucky to I really feel I'm lucky and privileged in some way that my great interest in life is development, personal development. And I was lucky in that way that this is my interest, my hobby, my personal need to develop, and also my profession. So um, my work is my hobby, and in this way, I feel lucky because I do in my life what I really love. But I also, of course, meet some personal difficulties in life. And also, although I was doing so much personal development and working with it with other people uh, daily, doing trainings and individual sessions, I had a hard time because several years before, my relationships with my grown-up son, who also is living in Denmark, was getting worse and worse and worse. And finally, mm, we stopped communicating, and he sent me an SMS saying that he's stopping communication with me for some period. And I thought, okay, he needs a pause, a break for 1 month or so. But then it lasted a year and a half, and I couldn't see any perspective how it's possible to change, because I also didn't want to communicate the way we did before it happened, but how to bring it in another, because I, of course, made a lot of efforts. I tried to do something, but it looked as if it was not the right way, and I couldn't find the way. So I almost started praying that, I don't know, universe should send me some help. I needed some help, and suddenly uh, a coach from Ukraine, from Kiev, where I also was holding some trainings, and with who studied in my trainings coaching, and with whom we had from time to time some communication about which interesting books do we know. He suddenly sent to me a link to a video, and this video was my first video when I have learned about Dmitry Shemenkov, who is the author of this method, open dialogue practice. And from first time I saw this video, I felt very much interested. And there was a free short course just to try what it is about. I have signed myself for this free course, and I felt it is everything so very much helping me to relax. I began to feel possibilities, and I also signed for the school. I began to practice open dialogue. I was listening to different webinars of Dmitry to learn the theory, which is based on scientific researches of Russian physiologists. And it was so much interesting for me. And since that time, I am still at school, and I love it. And I'm very grateful for that even more possibility in my life. So that was the story how I met Open Dialogue.
Yeah, you tell
In a
that
very,
it was the video link that you saw first time. Can you tell us or share with us maybe what caught your attention, especially in that video, that you maybe said, okay, I will try that. What something was interesting to you?
yes, I remember it was a video where a very, very young Dmitry, he's still young, but I think it was maybe when he was just maybe finished his medical university. Uh, so he was presenting at a conference of transpersonal psychology. And there was a lot of examples, some medical examples, and I liked that it was based on science. And it was very interesting for me because I have also some psychological education, and I'm a psychotherapist and was learning of it a lot. And he was telling that we are created as a living system in such a way that we can live a much longer time, almost almost a kind of without end, very long time in a good quality. Much longer can be still full of life and um, hold ourselves um, as rather, yeah, in a good quality in all the way, a kind of well-being in each sphere of our life. And that was wow for me. And I wanted everything about that because I want to live a lot and quality life. I am rather high in my age now, and I have so much things to do. So I need much more time for myself to enjoy my life in in each sphere of my life. That was very important. And one of those spheres he was talking about was social sphere, social relationships with other people, the quality of relations. And that is, as I said, was my problem, and I wanted to solve it. So this was what was special about it.
Yeah, I heard also the earlier videos of Dmitry, a young person who speaks on scientific approach, on something very wide and broad, and also about the communication. And as I know today, it's also about transformational practice, and also about the collaboration and importance of collaboration in 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 teamwork, so in a community, in a family. It's also about the non-violent communication that caught my attention so much in the first time when I met the content that he shares so much in a Russian audience until today. And it was very interesting to me to know maybe um, for that wide broad of perspective about the open dialogue and what it can maybe allow. um, what is open dialogue for you today? How do you see it? And when you maybe as a facilitator have um, mm, some principles that this practice scientifically based on as much I see person and meet with people, each of us like connects with some very some of the principles, maybe puts an accent to it. What what the most aspect, what the most valuable aspect for you in the open dialogue that you see today?
Thank you. I can hear two questions. The first one, you asked, what is open dialogue for me now? And then you were asking about what is our open dialogue for me is facilitator, and which principles which we use in open dialogue, principles of living systems, which are preferable for me. If I start with the first question, what is open dialogue for me in my life? It's first of all how I use it in my life, how it is helping me in my everyday life, uh, um, make better communication with people, because this is what is most important for me, a good communication. And I really have a benefit from it in many situations. And as a facilitator, when I hold groups at school of open dialogue as instructor and facilitator, I use, for me, it's very important to tell about all of them because I feel they all are very important. And of course, in different groups, I never am talking like a robot, absolutely the same. Of this or that reason, in some groups, I make some accents, and in another, some other accents. Um, but what is very important for me is that goal is natural, and to tell people clearly what is goal and how it is important to formulate a goal. Because when people don't formulate their goal in a proper way. Because there is a proper way, there is a difference between a goal and the problem. And sometimes people only present their problem and forget to tell about their goal. And then I can watch how they are going in the same circle again, again, again. And sometimes don't get uh, some effect of being in open dialogue, or very few effect. And then I try to tell more about what is a goal, that it is the result of our steps, it is lying in the future, and it's where we want to go, and not from where we want to go away from. Because what we go away from is in the past, and the result is in the future. And for me, it's just so obvious, and so it's easy to orient, because I very like being in contact in space, and that the past is behind my back and the future is in the front of me. I can see my future goal. So this is very important. And for me personally, was very important to know. I knew it from both NLP and the coaching, but all principles are were very, in some way, known to me, but principles of living systems. But Dmitry was formulating them in such a way that I could experience them as new. And this gave me very important accents. For example, I knew that when I make a sensory-based experience of imagining myself in the future goal, I live it now. These feelings are in me now. And then I have a connection to my goal on a neurological level. And this is very important. And he formulates it like the future goal is determining my perception in the now. And I add to it, it also determines my steps, what I'm doing in the now in order to reach the goal. And this way of formulating it is so important for me, because it is strengthening what I knew before. Formulate a goal in a well-formulated way. It is already more than half a work to reach the goal. And now when I know that goal is, when I focus on my outcome, the results of my steps, which are in the future, that it is influencing my perception in the now. It means by thinking about my goal, I already change my state, my mood, my identity. In some way, I'm already the person who has reached the goal. And this is very, very much empowering me to move towards my goal. This is one of things I like and love uh, between all other principles.
Thank you so much. It was very interesting perspective, because me as a coach and also the NLP trainer and nonviolent communication trainer, it was valuable to me to see different practices that I already know. It wasn't like new, but the experience and of merging different like vectors of orientation and how it counts, for example, in the even mindfulness practice that we use the practice of silence, how it affects us and how it explained now in scientific on scientific based. It was like approving something very profound and also giving some very practical tools. As you say, it's not only about communication, but it also about how it affects me in the here and now, like the state that we know in NLP state, and also that uh, determination that the goal, like our perception, is determined by our goals. I had also known from the NLP practice when they say one of the principles of NLP is perception is projection. Like all that we perceive from the reality, all the information that we have is also what we project outside. So it was like, oh, it's very familiar. Like I know it from somewhere, that I know from somewhere. But also about the change that we can do, not only in the communication, but also on personal level, like transformational practice. Something goes on when I, for example, as you said, set that goal. Something changes in me, and that change also affects me in the way that I perceive myself, and maybe my abilities and skills and resources that I can have in the here and now. When I find them, they change maybe also my goals because I see myself more resourceful. I can now manage my communication, for example. For example, for me, I came very close, and I had some conflict, very personal, financial level, and when I met first, at first the practice, and I heard it's about communication. I said to myself, "Oh no, I don't want to go to that, to to that thing of sharing my emotions and etc etc etc." Because from the closed state come to the open state, that was one of the first fears that I have to met to meet in order to do any steps towards going out of that conflict, going out of and resolving that problem. Do you have any another parallels maybe that you as a coach and NLP trainer that you can use in your practice, not only the personal but also maybe professional, that you combine practices, or maybe that you see some practice are set or turn to be more valuable after you met open dialogue, and how it maybe resonates with you right now in all the other aspects that you work in as a coach and an LP trainer.
Yes, it's there are many points of crossing with coaching and open dialogue for me. Very many. First of all, when I'm a coach in a personal session, I create a very present state, and I'm listening my client empathically. And then there is a field between us, and we create some form of a kind of uh, this group. Um, so the person is not alone. What is coaching important for? Because then the person feels I'm not alone with my problem. I have support in this our community, a little community, a little ant float. Uh, we know as an ant, a little this insect. cannot swim. Dmitry gives many times this example. But when there is a lot of water coming and destroying their place of living, they need to survive, and they uh, grab each other, hold each other very strongly, and they create such a float which can hold on the water a long time. So this is the power of community. It is in some way a over system, meta system for an element, for a smaller system. And it has these special qualities which one element of a system cannot have, doesn't have. And in this way, coaching is also a little community between a coach and the client. And we create this field, which is a source of energy in some way. And another thing is that as a coach, I don't give advices, I don't give recommendations, I'm not a mentor, I'm not a trainer, I'm a coach. It means I know that all the resources the person needs, all the answers a person needs are in the person himself. And my quality of attention, when I make the connection with the person, helps the person to make connection to his potential, to his inner potential, where he has all the resources he needs and all the answers he needs to his own questions. And I ask him questions which help to bring the answers up in himself. And the questions also um, stimulate his thinking to find something new which he didn't know before in himself, in his own uh, great potential. Because all people are unique. And my uh, experience can be not the experience the person needs. He needs to create his own. From his own resources, his own answers, and his own unique way of experiencing life. These are very important crossing things I experience between open dialogue and coaching. And of course, that there is a goal, and that it is personal. We call it in open dialogue personal practice to reach the goal. And in some way, there is a kind of personal responsibility about reaching the goal. Nobody can do it for me. It's only me who can do it. And I'm telling each time I meet a new client, I tell him about main coaching principles, and I tell the person that my function in our partnership is to ask questions, and the outcomes belong to the client himself. Only person himself who can make the steps to create his goal. These are also crossing things between open dialogue and coaching, things like that. I
Thank you
can
so
think
much.
about, oh,
Yes, sorry.
yes, these are what are coming right now. Mhm.
The creating of the field is something that very resonates to me right now in the moment of here and now. It was very valuable for personally for me. I don't know how our audience will will resonate with this interview. Uh, I would like also to maybe if you can share with us, because open dialogue is a personal practice, as you said, and people come sometimes to taste, sometimes to they heard Dmitry or maybe one of the other facilitators speaking, or just people talking about that. But there are different levels of involvement in that practice, and for some reason me and you chose to be also facilitators, and I would like to know what if you can share with us what was your reason, what was so important to you to also facilitate the groups and to have that message to the other people. I know maybe maybe it can be obvious as a coach and NLP trainer, whatever, but there's something that that inner call that tells us, I would like to do that. That's important to me, and maybe it's important to other people that I work with. What caught your interest so much to be also a facilitator, not a practitioner of the open dialogue?
When I started, thank you for the question. It's very interesting for me to reflect on it. When I started um, to learn, to practice open dialogue, there was no school of open dialogue yet. And because me and the people with whom I was studying and practicing, we are the first uh, facilitators, first a kind of hold of facilitators, because open dialogue were created while we are practicing. Uh, my first course was synchronizing course, which is starting soon at School of Open Dialogue. And um, at that time, Dmitry was on some conference where they started first time practicing what he called open dialogue. And then uh, he came and said, this is the most important practice in our uh, aware system of aware managing. How did he call it? SUS, the system of managing health.
Yes.
Uh, aware the system of conscious managing health. And then he said, this is the most important practice. And since that, he started call uh, his system of School of Open Dialogue. And now the system of conscious managing of health is back. And he created the
The merge
a
between two.
kind bringing them together now. And he's going on making some synchronizing courses and open dialogue practice. And so at that time, I just wanted to practice in all ways more and more of open dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned something which I feel I'm very interested in it. It gives me meaning. It gives me good tools. I want to go all the way. This was with neurolinguistic psychology. I became a trainer and then master trainer. That was with coaching. I became a trainer, and that was also with hypnosis. I became an instructor, certified instructor from a big American society, Guild of Hypnotists, International Society also, and uh, practicing all those things which I like, which I feel important for me myself. I want to go deep in them and practice them and give to other people. That's why I learned it. And with coaching, it happened sudden that before coaching, since 1995, I am self-employed and was making a lot of training in neurolinguistic psychology and in hypnosis in Denmark, in Danish language for Danish people. And when I studied coaching also in Denmark and said that I want to be a trainer in coaching, in our community, ICC, International Coaching Community, they say that these trainers which are in the country, they can a kind of determine how many trainers they should be in the country. And they said, we are enough. We don't need more trainers. And then I said, oh, but I can talk Russian and I will start bringing ICC trainings in Russia. So I was accredited by ICC to hold trainings in Russia, in Ukraine, and I also hold trainings in Belarus. But now there is their own trainer there. And trainer of business trainer from Litauen, from Vilnius, was coming to Moscow and was learning from us. And now she's also in training in Williams, in Litauen and in Latvia. And so I'm a trainer for Russian-speaking people. And now from last year, I'm holding trainings online. And this is very interesting and I love it. I was going to Moscow, flying every month during 7 years. And at last I was thinking, oh, I want to stay a little bit more home. And then Corona happened. And now I'm staying home, enjoying making trainings online. And all open dialogue practice is online. So I was used to it. This is also something common now between coaching and open dialogue.
Yeah, it's very interesting. As I as I hear you right now, it was something that you were first interested into, and when it was kind of valuable, you chose to go all the way through, like whatever opportunities, whatever abilities, or any kind of ways to practice that is valuable. You go all the way along until the end, and maybe beyond beyond the end. That is something that I saw also when you told about the coaching and hypnosis and NLP practices and etc. and about the open dialogue as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. One of the moments, or maybe interesting moments in my experience of open dialogue, is also about transformational practice. Like it's communication oriented practice. Like we have a better communication, non-violent communication. We can communicate in a very healthy, wealthy, and healthier way. Yet it's about transformational, and sometimes I see that transformation in the moment happens like inside of me, or maybe in the group. One of the participants shares something that they didn't know about himself or whatever. Mm, I would like to know if you had happened maybe to share with us some transformational, most remarkable transformational moments that were valuable first of all to you maybe, and in the groups that you're facilitating. Uh, One of two moments, or two moments that caught your attention so much, and you told yourself, "Wow!" It was the wow moment of a high experience. Something that can be interesting to us as well too.
Yes, thank you. Interesting question. Mm, of course, I wanted to become facilitator to develop more with open dialogue because then I learn it from different perspectives, not only as a participant of a group, but from a position when I facilitate the group. And there are qualities in it in both positions. And also as instructor of school, I'm a part of a process of developing a company in some way, an organization where in my own little company as a trainer, I was alone and from time to time, I had an administrator who was working for me, and it was a little, a kind of communication company. But now it is much bigger, and all the processes, communicational processes, creative processes which are going on there, all participants are using open dialogue. So it's very interesting for me how in a company it is possible to use open dialogue, because as coach I also sometimes work for companies, making trainings for companies, and also working with team coaching, coaching teams to have better communication. So all those things are also very interesting for me. But what was my special moments, you know, uh, open dialogue for me is on one side based on scientific researches and principles which Anokin, Russian neurophysiologist, academician, has discovered by watching the systems, learning how they function. And on the other side, it is in some way a kind of magic, because it is working very softly, very this transformation is changing, not because of uh, I'm I'm uh, using some special exercise, some special model, like in neurolinguistic psychology, for example, but by sitting and practicing feeling myself, feeling others, being present, being open, being honest, and especially being honest, not making distortion of information, was challenging for me. And I was not conscious about that. I was very slowly from one group to another group, uh, giving myself more and more freedom to talk about things. I was experiencing as if I am talking honestly, but I was not so much aware how many things were so much suppressed inside, because as many people didn't want to think about them, didn't want to experience them, and they were put it far away. But then I began to experience that things are coming, and then I have found out that what I couldn't talk on the last group, because it was awful, it was very, how it is called, vulnerable for me. But on this group, I suddenly talk about that and nothing happens. I just talk about that. And this change, when it happened, I don't know. It is a process, a very fine, very sensitive, very soft process. So the change in open dialogue is happening um, very safe, in a safe way. And the groups, what I like as a facilitator, I always say in the group, this is a safe place. We don't talk directly to each other. We don't have directly dialogue about things. We don't discuss things. We just watch our own feeling, feel our own feeling, practice to feel our feelings again, because many years, many people during many years don't allow themselves to feel their feelings. And here, uh, the, that means that I allow myself to feel my feelings. That means I become much more alive. And people express that. They say, I feel I'm alive. And this is right. When a person blocks his feelings, he blocks his vividness, he blocks his uh, uh, a kind of being alive. And it's so releasing, giving such a nice feeling, even physiologically. I felt as if there is more space around me, as if nothing is pressing, as if it's much easier to move. In general, with open dialogue, it's much easier to be me in any situations. That's, will I tell you, is the best.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Slightly change or tracking of that change, how it happened in a safe environment. It also about the transformation, but very soft, as you said, very soft and very gentle, tiny effects of transformation. Sometimes when you feel it's something that too vulnerable to share or to talk about, and this, at the sudden moment and sudden place becomes like natural that you share, but you pay attention, you're aware of, hey, I was afraid about that sharing. How does it happen that I suddenly open? I start to be open. It's also about connection with oneself and that vividness, that human resource that we have of being listened or being expressed or expressing oneself, and connecting with oneself maybe. That actually finding was, one of the first lectures that I heard is from Dmitry, was finding yourself through communication, like finding yourself through communication, like how does it go together. But it was one of the most profound first but also profound lectures that I heard from him. So it's about finding ourselves as well. um, in that terms, some questions, something that I want to talk about maybe, but we have also a long time interview. Maybe we'll do it once again. Maybe the last question. One of the most interesting ideas that I had in open dialogue school, and I heard first of all, first time that I heard it, it was from you, and that idea of facilitating my life. Like we have facilitating of the process, we're facilitating of the open dialogue, of but of my life, like the big idea, like a big or wider perception of that. So I would like to share, for you to share. We must share what is that facilitation of my life is, and what does it mean to you, and in your words.
Um, it is a big question. What is it being facilitating of my life, facilitating my life? I would say that as personal practice, we say in open dialogue, we express from I or me form, because it's about me, how I experience myself in life, how I experience myself among other people, how I experience myself creating communication with other people. And as in coaching, for me, it is about coming out of an victim role. Uh, as many people experience themselves in life in a victim role, not being conscious about that. They just believe things happen with me, and then somebody is behaving wrong towards me, and the weather is giving me a bad experience. And oh, I'm so poor because it's dark in winter. Oh, I'm so poor because it's, and so on. And of course, there were some parts of me, for example, in communication with my son, when it was going worse and worse, I was blaming. I was blaming him. I was blaming people with whom he was communicating, and felt they're doing wrong. He must change because he's himself an LP master. He knows a lot of techniques. Why he's blaming me? He can go and change himself, and I can help him if he wants. And that was not a healthy communication. And because open dialogue is a practice where this community, little community of the group, is the unity where although it's personal practice, but we all are mirrors for each other. And in this way, we are helping each other, mirroring each other. I come for learning myself better, learning my resources better, learning my mistakes better. And then I can get reflection on that. They're reflecting, mirroring me, and then I feel, oh, I'm released because of that in an easier way. And I'm also supporting these people, and we create a communication where we have our common goal, our kind of team goal of this very alive team, uh, to have at the end of the group a feeling of being uh, connected to each other, because that's what we are doing. We are connecting. The connections exist no matter we think about them or not, know that they are or not. But when we are feeling those connections together with a good feeling of well-being as our meta result of the group, then it is a very great, powerful effect on me. I'm not alone. I can always go and facilitating my life, facilitate a group, and solve any problem with the help of the group. I'm much more than myself. Although the group and the open dialogue is also helping me to become in more, um, in much more amount, being leader of myself, being author of my life. And in coaching is the same. It's a personal leadership, but with the help of course, communication is also very important in coaching, and coaching a very good communication tool. But in open dialogue, this is much more, for me, as I experienced it, was much more a kind of putting it in a first place, that the power of community, how we really in each group practice this, because I had this practice so much, it becomes part of my life. And then I get this, take this experience in my life, and I'm facilitating health communication with my sister, with my son, which I already, of course, for about year and a half, uh, uh, started communicated, and we communicate in a very warm and positive way now. Not so much as I would like to, but I respect he's a grown-up person. He has need for his iron, um, a kind of, he lives his life. And I also use it in my communication with my grandchild. I had a grandchild, 11 years old, very nice guy. And I feel how much more warm our communication is. And I facilitate much more communication with my clients, with my students in coaching and in my trainings. So this is about, recently I had a challenge with my dentist, and I was facilitating communication with my dentist. So he was doing what I was asking him to do. This was during many years a challenge for me because many dentists are specialists. They know what is right for each person, but uh, now I know how it's possible to communicate with dentists. So he knows what's right for me and is respecting it and helping me. And it was a very good experience for me. So in many levels. Thank you.
Yeah, that that idea, in my how it met me, it met me in some profound, wide, broad perspective of facilitating my life. It's also about leadership. It's also about communication with others, but it's also about my personal approach, I guess, attitude to what is life, what life is for me is about, and who am I in my perspective, and how do I manage it. So, because when you have an open dialogue system installed inside, and you know the elements of healthy goal and honesty and personal practice and non-violent, practicing toward myself, toward the others, empathic listening, etc., 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 I kind of manage what is going on inside, outside, in my relationships, and I can, as you say, it's mostly we don't use that leadership term of calling that, but it's like it's kind of leadership, but it's not really leadership as we know it. It's more about facilitating, because each of us who comes to the open dialogue, if even if he doesn't, he's not a facilitator, is kind of learning, because that's why maybe I called it communication lab in English, and whole channel actually is about the open dialogue, but it's communication lab. I can come in safe environment, practice different things about me, how I can express myself, maybe how can I listen to myself or connect with myself in different ways that I know, and I can, like a laboratory, where I can experience new patterns, and when I go to my real life and I'm facilitating my life in different communications with a dentist, with a son, with my mother, with my brother, and etc., etc., etc. And I can try micro dialogues. I call it micro, really tiny, tiny dialogues that like open new opportunities in the moment, that changing something in the quality of the relationship. And that's maybe for me also about the that it's like how chills. I feel chills in my body when I say I express that term of facilitating my life, because it's changing outside, inside, and also affects my leadership and my self-realization, I guess. Oh, it was so interesting. Now, in the moment, I see that we can have several interviews about the leadership as well in the open dialogue, how we can manage and maybe to do it in the to take it to the next stage, but maybe it's for the other times. I was so much excited to have you today, to this evening, although in a Zoom, and to share with us that ideas and the uh, some personal experience, professional and personal, from professional and personal life. It was very valuable, and I would like to guess or to think that it will be valuable also for our audience. If you have any, for example, just to the end to summarize our meeting today, some advices or for tasting the group, or maybe for first steps for those who don't really know what is going on, what we are talking about, what's that open dialogue thing, and how we can use it or not use it. Is it for me? Is it not for me? If you have any words to say, maybe this will be the time, and we will conclude.
Yes, I'm also very happy to be here today and to you made very good questions, so I could reflect on them. It's a very good thing also for myself to integrate what I get from open dialogue much deeper in myself. And what can I say? I can only recommend everybody who wants positive changes in his lives, just do it, go for it. It's we are not giving advices, but because I uh, want people mm, who really want positive changes, uh, I can easily say it made great changes for me. Though I had already so many personal development experiences, open dialogue made great changes for me. So, like in Russian fairy tales, where uh, there is an image of a person who was maybe who died in some fight with a dragon or something else, and a magician came to help him. He has put his parts of his body together, and he brought, as they called, living water, and dropped this living water on the body, and the person was alive again. So open dialogue for me like living water or living energy, energy which brings a new life in any part of the person's life, both physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, in the way of self-realization, using its own potential. And it happens in a very soft, comfortable, and enjoyable way. So it happened for me. What can I say?
Ludmila,
Back
thank you
on.
so very much. Thank you so very much, and I would like to maybe say some words to our audience whenever you like this video, and you can connect with us with the open dialogue school, or as a facilitators. We are leading for our own facilitating groups in English and also in other languages. I live in Israel, and I do it also in Russian, also in Hebrew. So the other languages we are going to develop, I guess, in very soon, very soon. And you have any questions, you can turn, and if you like this video, also subscribe to this channel, in order to have more tools about the open dialogue and the communication, maybe some practices that work with inner states and how do we change it in very safe and non-violent way. So thank you so much for having us this evening or this day that you hear this interview, and hope to see you soon in the other videos. Thank you so much.